I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, Velocities in Music. For episode 201 today, Deerhunter Halcyon Digest. It's a brand new album, 2010. This thing is getting monstrous hype. It's going to go down, hopefully, as one of the best albums of 2010, at least in the top 20, as far as aggregated critic scores are giving it. I like it. I think Tom likes it, from what we've talked about. And just to describe what this thing sounds like, this is the definition of indie lo-fi. This is it. This is ambient punk. That's what the band themselves describe this as. Other acts, Atlas Sound, Bradford Cox, the lead guy in Deerhunter, you know, he did Atlas Sound, and that's his alias for his solo work, but he also is in, you know, he's not in, but there's also this album sounds similar to Animal Collective, you know, Olivia Tremor Control, old school indie, Ariel Pink's Haunted Graffiti, stuff like that. I actually have the Walkman written down twice, because I'm a retard. Anyways, but Tom, what do you think? Did you like Halcyon Digest? That is actually how you say it. We looked it up.
Yes. Dictionary.com.
Woo!
They gave us the enunciation. But yes, I do like it.
And what does that mean? What does Halcyon Digest mean?
Well, Bradford Cox, I guess, said in an interview that the way the meaning of the title of the album is kind of about how we manipulate our own memories to suit what we want to think of them, to maybe make them happier than they are, you know, kind of your mind's defenses and things like that, and how he just thinks it's kind of sad that you do that, because Halcyon means just kind of calm, tranquil, kind of contentness, I guess. And so, very, very interesting. Obviously, this guy, you know, and the band, these things mean a lot to them, you know, naming the songs and the album and making it all theme together, you could say. But this is a really very good album. Lots of cool instrumentals, lots of good use of delay and ambient, you know, background stuff just kind of washing around in the background. It just kind of makes it sound like this big, washed-out sound, much like we said about Ariel Pink's Haunted Graffiti. I think that the songwriting is just much stronger than that. I think it holds together a little better.
I agree.
But unfortunately, I haven't listened too much to Deerhunter's older work. My good friend Jeff, we were hoping he would be able to come on here. He's a huge Deerhunter fan, and talk a little bit about how this works in with their older stuff. But from what I've heard, from what he told me, so I'm kind of channeling this through him, I guess he's channeling it through me. They've cut a lot of the rock stuff that they used to have. Now they still have some of that. Tracks 2 and 3, Don't Cry and Revival, you know, still have some upbeat rocker stuff. Even Coronado a little bit, but they're just going much more for mood. You know, big ambience, and I don't really know what else to say. I really liked, as a bass player, I loved the bass lines on this album. I thought the bass moved through it really well.
And that's one cool thing about the whole kind of ambient indie rock, indie punk scene that's going on right now, is that you're seeing bass come to the forefront. Thank you of Montreal for pushing that.
Well, and because, you know, when the guitars are doing these just kind of washy, holding out chords and letting them delay for minutes at a time, what else do you have to move the song along except for a cool little bass line?
And I like how they compose the songs, and I even like another thing I really like is that they use, you know, very subtle sound effects to help establish a percussive element that helps kind of guide you through the foggy atmosphere they're creating and stuff. I really like that. Another thing I liked about Halcyon Digest is that you know, it works. To me, I felt like the back half was stronger than the front half. Not that the front half was not strong. I felt like it was very strong. In fact, Tom, one of your track picks, Earthquake, the starter song, awesome. And I feel like it's just the back half is just really, really good. And I just feel like this is gonna be one of the better albums, you know, we see come out of 2010.
Yeah,
I like it. It doesn't blow me away. It's not mind blowing. But there is it's a solid album with a lot of good tracks on it. And that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, and the one complaint that I have, that I was mentioning before we started filming, is that now, and I know I'm going to piss off a lot of people that are really into this kind of lo-fi genre, because this is complete heresy if you're into that kind of stuff. But I felt like they took it to the extreme a little bit sometimes, or maybe not the extreme, but I felt like sometimes they were doing it just to do it, just to keep those people happy, when there were some spots where I felt like it could have been better. if the instrumentals were produced in such a way and equalized to separate them a little more, rather than them all just being reverbed out together in the same big old mixing pot, you know. I feel like a little more separation, a little more compression and presence would actually do it some good. Once again, I know people are crying about that right now, but honestly, it's not all the time. It's a few select spots. I mean, for example, like when it busts into the beginning of Memory Boy, that's actually good. That's really present, really, powerful. But, in contrast with times like that, there were some times where I'm like, I can tell that the guitars and the bass and the drums are doing some cool things here, but they're just not mixed loud enough. They're a little washed out, and I would have liked to hear them a little more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I guess that's a fair point too. And it is kind of what the style is, but at the same time, that doesn't make up for the fact that you just can't hear something.
But to me, I mean, the quality of songwriting that is present on this album is worth showing off, and to try to sacrifice some of that cutting through just to remain loyal to this kind of offbeat style that people like them for, I think is a little bit too much of a compromise.
Yeah, and maybe they could find a balance. I feel like if they were to go too much to what you're describing, though, it would lose some of that dreaminess to
totally.
it,
Yeah, and I'm not saying the whole thing needs to sound like Dredge's Pariah Parrot Delusion.
Oh, God.
But I just think a little bit, just a little bit.
Yeah. My favorite tracks were track 6, Desire Lines, track 8, Helicopter. I love Helicopter. That's a single, and the video's down there. It's sweet. Track 9, Fountain Stairs, and track 11, He Would Have Laughed, which is actually a tribute to the late Jay Retard.
I'm going to go with track 1, Earthquake. Great song, great opener. Track 6, Desire Lines, and the last track, He Would Have Laughed.
I feel like this is a strong album and a good showing for 2010 in an indie band like this. I'm going to give this an even 80. I think it's solid. Very good.
I really like it too. I'm actually going to go higher than what I thought. I'm also going to go 80. Sweet. This is an 80 album. It's good.
Very solid. Recommended. Go check it out. Especially if you're into really indie stuff. If you're not, still probably something you might not love, but I think that most people out there will get into it if they give it a fair listen. Tell us what you think. www.velocitiesmusic.com. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are BIMTV Movie Music Critique Forward.